expect them to be up here in Nairobi by early next month, finished and ready to go, with about 5 more SACCOs in and around Nairobi. So we need to talk. I love everything you guys are saying, and we are on the demand side. We have a lot of it. If you've got extra power at night, I've got stuff to fill those extra thermal things just going out into the wind. Lete huko kwetu tunaweza kuitumia.
New service industries, like we've seen the data centers that are coming up. They really take a bit of power, and we've seen a lot of requests, Google, Liquid Telecom, wanting to set shop in both either in Nairobi or in Mombasa. And those have been driving the kind of demand that we are seeing. We've seen a bit of expansion in the industrial sector. The other day you saw the president opening up a plant in Kilifi for DEFCI. DEFCI is using our power. It's not 100% captive power. Their bill is quite high. In fact, it's one of the highest. It's one of our highest customer. And of course, we are aware that most of the large power customers are moving towards captive power, self-generation, and trying to support that. That is a good thing, because at the end of the day, they're using renewable sources, which are resources within the country, and they're helping us conserve the little resources that we have as a country. Because KPLC is not all about making money, it's also sustainably using the resources that we have in the country. So we, as a country, or as a company, also is looking at driving that demand, and that is why you've seen KPLC coming up at the forefront in terms of e-mobility. We've partnered with Basigo. We have been working very closely with our large power customers. If you look at the way even we do our connection, we are trying to move them to higher voltages from, not say the 415, we are now moving them to 220, 220 kV, 132, 66, where we have less losses, less interference. It is much more stable and good for their business. So we are trying to encourage them or connect them at those levels, offering alternative supply points, so that then their reliability quality of supply is totally assured. We know if they bring 1,000 buses tomorrow, maybe the system cannot hold.
Yep.
So we just have to be careful to spread the charging stations in a way that then the entire system can be able to hold. So that is being done.
Yep.
And we in a short while you'll see us rolling down the framework under which then we can work closely together with the association of. There's an association that you have that has all the players within the e-mobility association, so that then we agree on how we can be able to plant. And we want to have the private sector come on board to drive that. But KPLC just wants to ensure that the ecosystem is in a way that it can support. The network we have can support the various charging stations at whatever they are.
We've got 17 buses, and we're going to be buying a lot of power just for those 17 buses. By the end of next year, we're hoping to be at 100 buses. By the year after that, 500. So we may not be in Kwale or in Kilifi with DEVCI in a single place, but we as a company are bringing transport. And the cool thing is, you don't have to import the power. This is Kenyan-made power propelling all of these cars. So the local content that we have is actually provided by all the people in this room, rather than the guys kind of up in the drier northern areas in the Middle East.
This area is trying to unify regulation. It's trying to unify regulation for the East Africa community, so the countries can move together. We have things such as harmonization of tariff setting. We have other working streams such as electrification. I think Kenya is it 74% now? In terms of electrification. Yes, so we're trying to bring the other countries along. So from a regulatory point of view, is more combining these regulatory aspects and bringing them together in terms of having a unified regulatory framework. We're doing a petroleum demand forecasting for the next 20 years. We're doing that model in Naivasha today, actually, and I kept asking, we can't see a dip in demand occasioned by the anticipated increase in use of green vehicles.
Is of up to 5 gigawatt electrolysis capacity. Of course, since we're all here in the room, we've been working in the private sector space with pilots that are planned. We are doing feasibility studies for different hydrogen derivatives, and we're actually working with the Ministry of Energy in a working group, looking at each particular industrial pathway for this hydrogen economy and how these projects will be phased, what captive use of electricity they will require, and whether it will be, to what extent this could be able to help the economy.
If you go to Ghana today, they are load shedding. If you go to South Africa, they are load shedding. South Africa has an installed capacity of 52,000. Yeah, but they are barely reaching that. I was calculating, I was reading through, their availability factor is way low. Those machines are old. Ghana, the same problem. Ghana, they were load shedding because their availability factor was 74% of the installed capacity. Kenya we are moving towards that direction. These machines are getting old, so we shouldn't look at the installed capacity number. So as he says, it is good to start planning, and that is why we signed contract upfront to support us in terms of new generation.
Going to see Wawero has put panels and is selling to the grids, and I've bought a new car and I've built a new house, and you want to do the same as me. So at the end of the day, somebody's going to end up with so many, shall we call them electricpreneurs? And then they will not, and they still have to pay their original plans. So we're trying to avoid that scenario. We're not saying we don't encourage business. We're just saying that it's very important to monitor that part. So the amendments haven't gone through yet, but we're trying to reduce. We're trying to get more visibility on that area.
We run those to about 130 to 140% any given day. So a bus on average is consuming about 4,500 kilowatt hours a month. Between the 17 buses is about 75,000 kilowatt hours. We're going to be adding a few more bigger buses later in the year. So we're looking at kind of 1 million kilowatt hours just for these 19 buses that we'll be running before we bring a little bit more. We may be up to kind of 2 million by end of the year. Nominal range is 250, depending on 250 kilometers. So depending on, a lot of it is on driver behavior, the road conditions, and a little bit of the weather. But most of our buses are doing kind of 220, 230 on a given day, come back for a small top up, and then they'll do another kind of 120 on that day. So most of them are PTAing over 300 kilometers on any given day.
Comment about what your general feeling of this event has been today in terms of realizing conversations around the energy sector in the country.
I think the conversation has been good. It was well attended. The topics of discussions were very relevant, addressing some of the key issues that are coming up. Remember, the energy sector is still not a very big sector, a 3,100 megawatt capacity economy. Of course, there is need to address the issues of renewable energy, which were discussed in terms of ensuring our energy mix is up to 100% if possible. We are lucky Kenya is currently doing 92%, and there is a drive towards the new plants coming on board to ensure that we move it even closer to 100%. So I believe it has addressed some of the issues that are pertinent to the current discussions.
Another question that I want to pick from you at the sidelines of this event is that you're very keen on telling Kenyans, look, our power in the country is inexpensive. I mean, KPLC comes to the fore every time things happen around the country, around the energy sector. Could you reiterate the same sentiments talk to them now on the sidelines of this event?
Oh, okay. So the cost of power is an important subject to everybody because energy drives the economy. And looking around and seeing the cost of power in Kenya comparable to what we have in East Africa or the larger sub-Saharan Africa, the power is comparable. The price is comparable given the kind of sources of energy that we use to generate this power, and then our network structure and our economy in generally. So I would say the power cost is comparable. The issue that comes up every other day that electricity is expensive, is it might be true or not true, but from my perspective, I believe if you compare electricity with other utilities that we are or services that we are getting, say from the mobile phone, we buy airtime every other day. As an individual, you use the airtime as an individual on your phone, and let's say you buy it at 100 shillings per day. If you buy 100 shillings unit per day, that's roughly like about 4 units. You can use the 4 units as a family, not as an individual, for the next 1 or 2 days, depending on the usage. So if on average the cost of power compared to other services or utilities that we procure as individuals or for households could be said to be cheaper. From my perspective, it is cheaper. An individual can spend 4,000 a day on airtime or per month on airtime, and barely spends 4,000 per month as a household, powering all his appliances, and yet we still say electricity is expensive.
Samson, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Anytime. It has been a successful event. Talk to me about why this was important today.
This is really important because at the